Hit record. All right, welcome everyone. We are so excited to be welcoming you from the Center for Brooklyn History to another year of New York City History Day. We're excited to kick things off today. Even though we can't be together in person, we're really glad that you have logged in to join us. So what is History Day? New York City History Day is the regional contest for National History Day, which is a program that provides over 500,000 students each year the opportunity to excel at historical research and interpretation and creative expression. We are really excited to host the New York City History Day contest for the second time in 2022 from the Center for Brooklyn History. And then top entries from this New York City contest are invited to advance to state and national contests. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with us, what is the Center for Brooklyn History? The Center for Brooklyn History preserves, protects, and shares Brooklyn's history with the borough's diverse audiences and beyond. I know that many of you are logging in today from outside of Brooklyn, and we're so grateful to connect with you. But you might know us under a different name. The building on your screen, the building I'm sitting in, it was formerly known as the Brooklyn Historical Society, and before that, the Long Island Historical Society. So the Center for Brooklyn History is the result of a 2020 merger between the Brooklyn Historical Society and the Brooklyn Public Library's Brooklyn Collection Archive. So now, as part of Brooklyn Public Library, we are the most expansive collection of Brooklyn history in the world. What are we going to cover today? I'm going to give some updates on what New York City History Day will look like this year, a few important dates to keep in mind, some key rules and information for the History Day contest, this year's contest theme and where we can find more resources about that, other resources for working on your History Day project, and then finally at the end, we will have time for your questions. This is scheduled to go until 4:30, but I will hang on as long as needed afterwards for any other questions that you have. So what will New York City History Day look like in 2022? We are really committed to making sure that this year's contest remains a safe and inclusive event. And because of that, we have made the difficult decision that the 2022 New York City History Day contest will be virtual. We recognize that it is important to make a decision and share it at this point already in the school year so that all of you can prepare projects accordingly. And we also recognize that there are too many factors out of our control right now to allow us to assume that we could plan an in-person event. We really hope that the state and national contests will be in person this year and not virtual. And so because of that, some of the instructions for preparing projects are a little different than last year when it was decided already at this point in the year that everything would be virtual. So what that means is that students who are preparing exhibits or performances should prepare something that could be exhibited or performed in person at the state and national levels if those contests happen in person. And we have more details on how to prepare projects in each category on our own website. I will take a look at that with all of you in a few moments. So, thinking back on what this year's contest will look like, it still has 5 categories: papers, exhibits, documentaries, performances, and websites. And all of those categories except the paper can be a group or an individual project. A group project can have up to 5 students working on it. An individual project is just 1 student. And the contest still has 2 divisions. So the junior division is for middle school and the senior division is for high school. What will the timeline look like? Registration is going to open for teachers, students, and judges in late January 2022. And as a reminder, teachers will need to register before their students so that students can select their teacher when registering. We will update you all on our website, on the contest website, about the exact closing date of registration. It will be the beginning of March 2022. And the contest itself will take place throughout the month of March 2022. A virtual contest takes more than 1 day, and so judging will take place throughout that month. So what does it mean to make a History Day project? Well, all History Day projects follow pretty standard National History Day guidelines. And I will show you in a moment where to find more of those on the National History Day website. But To look in a nutshell at some of the basics, students are expected to show that they've done wide research with both primary and secondary sources. It's really important for every project, regardless of the category, to show historical context, multiple perspectives, historical accuracy, and historical significance, and to make a strong historical argument. In all entries, regardless of the category, also include some standard documentation, a title page, a process paper, and an annotated bibliography. All projects also follow a National History Day theme, and this year's theme is debate and diplomacy, successes, failures, and consequences. We can always look to the National History Day website for more information about the theme, and I'm going to take us there now so we can explore what's available. We can see on the theme webpage, there is a theme introduction video that gives some great project and research topic ideas. There is a graphic organizer. There's also a recording here of a question and answer session that National History Day hosted about the theme earlier in the year. And then finally, there's also a contest theme book, which we can look at as a PDF. This is a very, very rich resource. And if I just take us to the title page to see what's here, we can see that National History Day has worked with staff at the National Museum of American Diplomacy, the National Park Service, the Library of Congress, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the White House Historical Association, to highlight different topics related to the theme that are jumping off points for further research. So I would really encourage you to explore all of these theme materials as a starting place for research ideas. Another key thing is that all projects follow the National History Day rulebook. And if you took a break from the History Day contest last year, which is understandable, last year was an extraordinary school year, as is this one, the rulebook was updated in the summer of 2020, which means this new rulebook was used for the contest last year. It will be used again for the contest this year. We have a link to it here. I'll include that link in the follow-up email that I send out. And it highlights all of the details that you need to know, whether you're doing a History Day project for the first time or working with students for the 10th year in a row. Provides a lot of helpful tips for making sure that you do the best History Day project you can. The other thing is that all projects are graded according to a rubric. The rubric was also revised in 2020. And we can find rubrics for every category on the NYCHD website. So this is another really great way to set students up for success by looking at these resources. There are sections for every category. And for example, if I'm looking at the paper category, I can look at the new evaluation form. These were used last year as well, and they break down the analysis of every project a little bit more granularly than previous rubrics did for NYCHD. So this is a really terrific tool to help students look at their own project and think, where am I fitting into this rubric right now? And overall, the rubric breaks everything down into 20% for clarity of presentation and 80% for historical quality. All right. Now, what does a History Day project look like? We have a few examples on here. There are also a lot of great examples on the category pages of the website that I was just showing. And I'll share a link to that as well in my follow-up resources. But we can see here an example of an exhibit. And in submitting an exhibit for a virtual contest like this year, the students will still be making exhibit boards like this because they may have the opportunity to display their physical IRL exhibit at a state or national contest. So we see the classic trifold board of the NYCHD exhibit. Students can also make documentaries. I have a screenshot here from an award-winning documentary a few years ago. Or students can make a website, and all websites for National History Day, as you'll read in the rulebook, are constructed using the NHD Web Central platform. If you have questions about using NHD Web Central, there's a lot of resources about that on the NHD website, but again, you can always get in touch with us to ask if we have suggestions for further resources. And it's worth looking, even if you've worked with students in the past on using this platform, it's worth checking out the NHD website because they have made several improvements to this platform since last year's contest. And again, I mentioned that we can see more examples of projects at that categories webpage that we were just looking at. So if we are looking at a category and we scroll to the bottom of the page, we can see that they have student examples from previous years. So I could look at some junior group documentaries, I can watch it, I can read the process paper, I can read the bibliography. It's a really great way to see what we're aiming for. And where can I find more resources for my History Day project? Well, everything that we have looked at so far has been on the National History Day website, those category pages, the rule book, the theme book, but I also want to point out resources on our own website at Brooklyn Public Library. Because we've been collecting a lot of material there from New York City cultural heritage institutions to support teachers and students and parents who are working on History Day this year. So just as a highlight, we have some of the basic information about the contest on this main page. You can also take a look at last year's award ceremony that's still posted on the website if you want to check that out. But I would really like to highlight the resources for students and for teachers. So let's take a look first at our resources for students. We have links to the rule book, and National History Day has just put out a fantastic new guide to student research and historical argumentation. They worked with Library of Congress on this. You can download a free copy through this link over to their website. We also created a new National History Day student workbook that walks through a lot of the steps of doing a History Day project, skills that we usually teach students when they are working on a History Day project. But then some of the meat of this page is finding primary sources. That's a key part of every National History Day project. And so we have tried really hard to connect local students with local institutions that have primary sources to support them. This website is constantly being updated as we gather more resources from institutions. And you can see we've grouped them by New York City libraries and historical societies. And then we have resources for New York history, resources for American history, international topics, LGBTQ history, the history of communities of color, art and music, natural history, science and STEM, and so much more. So a lot of fantastic information on this page. Over on our resources for teachers tab, again, all navigated through that main page on our website. You can see, to go along with that student workbook, we made an educator handbook that gives some guidance for guiding students through all of the work that we outline in the workbook. And then to top that off, and working with our local cultural heritage institutions, we have some fantastic resources here from other cultural heritage institutions, teacher workshops that could relate to the theme, as well as opportunities for virtual class visits at local cultural heritage institutions that could speak to different aspects of the National History Day theme or of doing history research. So these teacher and student web pages are a fantastic resource, and you can navigate to all of them from our New York City History Day webpage. And again, I'll share the link for that in my follow-up information. So there's a lot of resources out there, and we are excited to be here as hosts to connect you with resources for doing History Day this year. And so I'm going to wrap up. We've got our contact info on the screen there, but you'll be getting an email from me tomorrow anyways. But I'm going to wrap up by taking a pause from talking myself, and I would love to hear